Another Monday.
I'm gonna call in today because I just
There's a call for you on line 1.
I quit. Let me talk to your manager.
Can I see you in my office?
Are you on your lunch
Hey,
break?
will you trade shifts with me?
Oh, I didn't notice you were on the
Oh, I'm
phone.
sorry. Am I interrupting you? You can stay late, right?
Ugh. Is it Friday yet?
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to episode 4 of What the Monday,
What?
where we talk about work stories.
And Monday things. Like when you brew an entire pot of coffee, brew an entire pot of coffee at work, get a full cup and then spill it across your entire keyboard.
It's the worst.
Computer, floor.
Oh my God.
Spend an eternity cleaning up. Then the IT guys get mad at you because you wrecked the keyboard
It's
and
so
they now
true.
have to throw it away. Story of my life.
I spilled so much at the coffee shop. So like I would make a fresh 2-liter thing of hot mocha sauce and I'd be carrying it. I think my best one was when I dropped it and it exploded up onto the ceiling because of course I didn't have a cover on it. The rest of it spilled onto the floor into this massive puddle around all of our big black mats with all the holes in them. And so then every mat that you pick up is with
sticky
chocolate sauce. And then trying to clean it up, and I had a line. I was had to pull the fridge out because it went under the fridge, and so I'm
dang.
sliding over the fridge to make a latte, and that was hard.
Oh, gosh.
Another time I was getting milk because nobody thinks about how much milk you go through at a coffee shop.
Right.
That's all that's in these drinks for the most part. I mean, coffee, yes, but a latte is 2 ounces of coffee and 14 ounces of milk
Right.
in a 16-ounce drink. That's just how it goes. Since we were in a bigger retail store, I would go to the back of the store with a cart, fill it up with 30 gallons of milk, and go back to the front of the store. And every time someone's like, "Oh, are you thirsty?" I'm like, yep, real thirsty. Sitting here in my coffee shop hat, my coffee shop apron, pushing this milk up to the front of the store. Sometimes I think I'm taller and stronger than I really am. So I thought I could carry 2-gallon jugs of milk in one hand and just hang one on my thumb and then have the other one in the, other fingers of my hand because that's how you carry things. And couldn't. So I was rounding the corner and the deli was right beside us and it slipped and exploded and they were making sandwiches and wraps at the time. And they had their whole counter full of half-made sandwiches and my milk exploded over all of it. And they were so mad at me.
I bet.
And it was everywhere. And because it was in the corner, it obviously got over all of our stuff too. But they forgave me. I got
good.
along. I got along with the deli guys.
Good.
One of them came around the corner one time. He had this huge gleam in his eye. He's like, "You have to try this olive. It's like getting kicked in the face by the entire Mediterranean population." and
Ew.
and that's when I had my first olive.
I don't like olives, though.
I didn't like it either.
Oh.
But, he was so excited about it. What was I going to say? Oh, no thanks.
You're like,
I'm not going to crush his dream.
Oh, he was very excited
pumped.
about that olive. So that's Addison.
Oh, yeah. That's Lydia.
Forgot about that.
We
We are people. We have names, just in case you were wondering.
My coffee shop apron just
Rubies.
said nameless, to be determined.
TBD.
It was just a blank line. Call me which one.
Ooh, I wouldn't leave that open.
I don't trust people enough for that.
Yeah, no.
What are we talking about this week? What do we got?
We're going to be talking about how to ruin your resume and fail your interview.
Oh, gosh, rough.
So we're hiring for a certain position at work, and we had a guy submit his resume, and he sent a picture of himself with the resume. Now, this is a position that is entry level.
Outdoor work, manual
Yes,
labor.
manual labor. So he sent a picture of himself from the waist up, shirtless. Model picture. It literally looked like he was a Calvin Klein model with his shirt off. Granted, he was good looking. He definitely was.
Oh, my God.
But why? We're not. No. This is a manual labor position. This is not a. You're not gonna have headshots. You're not gonna.
You're not in sales. Oh, my God. That's
And he had
so
two
funny.
jobs before, and so he had to be pretty young. He looked pretty young, and
Yeah,
poor
he looked pretty
shirtless
young.
picture of himself.
I have worked so hard on my resume. I actually took those classes very seriously in high school and
Same.
college. I have hired a good number of people and I want to rewrite their resumes and send them back to them.
Yes.
In apartments, we have a lot of maintenance positions because you got to fix the things that are broken. You got to make
Right.
the apartments ready after somebody moves out. Getting resumes for some of those, I had someone say, "I am very good with a hammer and screwdriver." And I was like, so are most 5-year-olds I know. And I had someone say under skills, they put hand washing. Well, can you go to the bathroom by
Like
yourself
you wash
too?
other
Like-
people's hands or like just your own?
Okay, that's weird.
My own hand washing? I know.
Hand washing.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
that was a personal skill. I've seen skills of showing up to work and I was like, oh, what?
Oh, no.
How about punctuality?
Why don't you just put brushing your teeth on there? Like if
Like-
you're going to do that.
I want you to pay me and I want the job because I'm going to show up. And I was like,
Done. You're
Oh.
hired.
that's all I was looking for, bro.
No one else will do that.
This is the guy that's going to show up.
No.
So on the flip side for the office work, had someone say they were a good communicator. That went well.
Oh, that's sad.
And then resumes that had, okay, don't give me your hoochie mama for you email address
I know. Those are the best.
on your professional resume.
That's
Like,
literally the first thing that they taught us in high school.
yeah.
Have your first and last name in your email.
Yep.
Don't use your crazy one. That's
It was
hilarious.
so funny. I had one where it said references and it was like list 3 references and it had a box that said how they know you.
Yeah, like relation to you or something like that.
Yeah, so it had the name, the phone number, and how they know you. And so this guy put people's names. And then in the how they know you, he put old lady friend, cutest friend, and best friend.
Oh.
But cutest was Queetest.
No, hon.
So let's play this out. So I call his references, right? What do I say? Oh, Joe here said that you were his old lady friend. Really? Like, oh yeah, you're Joe's cutest friend.
Congratulations.
Good
This is what
job.
he put.
What do you think about him? Oh, he's real sweet. He called me cute. Like, how is this gonna work?
But he spelled it wrong. So
1, don't list them as your cutest friend. 2, just say friend. 3, if you're gonna list them as your cutest friend, use your spell
that's another
check.
thing that I don't like when jobs ask for references and they don't call them.
Yep.
If I'm going to take the time to get out my phone and look at my friend's email and phone number, do not just waste my time. Actually call them and see if I'm a good person or not. I'm just
Absolutely.
saying. Don't ask for them if you're not going to call them. I don't get it.
I'm right there with you.
Just check references, people, or don't ask for them if you're not going to check. It's that simple. I want to help companies interview because I am so particular about the way people interview me. Literally, like I love when they ask really tough questions and I always tell them that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that question. Thank you so much for asking
Same.
that. And other questions where I'm like, you don't need to ask that anymore. Like weaknesses. I don't
Right.
understand why employers still ask you what your weaknesses are. First
Yep.
of all, do you think I'm going to tell you what my weaknesses are? No.
What do you think is gonna happen?
No.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
first of all, are you expecting me to make up some BS answer?
Which is what people do.
Which is, yes, what they do. Or do you actually want to hear what my weaknesses are and not give me the job? Okay, cool. Like, I just don't understand why people do that.
you know what?
anymore.
Maybe I'm not always so good with the hand washing, you know?
Am I gonna show up? I don't know. Oh, you know what I ask jobs that in an interview, they're interviewing you and they ask,
Yeah.
what questions do you have?
Yep.
I always ask, what's your management style?
Yep, I
Because
like that.
I feel like that's an important thing. And people always say, whenever I ask that, they're like, oh my gosh, that's a really good question. I'm
It's
like,
a very important
yeah, I
thing.
want to know if you're going to micromanage me or not.
Or are you one of those managers who just sits back and doesn't care and isn't participative
Right.
at all in your own, team?
Yes.
That's not going to fly with me.
Right.
Because I'd be like, I want you to care because I care.
Mm-hmm.
I had a girl come in for an interview. I asked her like what questions she had, and she pulls out this notebook and she's like, so I noticed on your website that the president of the company, so-and-so, has been there for about 14 years. And I just think that's really impressive to have that kind of longevity in the upper tiers. And I was like, yeah,
Dang, that's awesome.
okay, sure was.
Yeah.
Wish I could pay you more than $4 an hour, but
And on the flip side, I've had companies ask me, well, what do you know about our company?
yeah.
And I definitely didn't prepare and look because it was not an interview that I was excited about. And I said, oh, I don't know much about it. And they hired me. They offered me the job.
Hey, there you go.
I did not work for them, but they offered me the job.
That's the other thing.
like-
Sometimes like people, a lot of people get very nervous in interviews. Like I was interviewing a guy who was just shaking and sweating the whole
that's
time and I felt so
sad.
bad. But I hired him because he was so
Good.
qualified. He was a good guy, like that came across.
Good.
And so even if you're nervous, like just go do it. You got this.
Right.
And you don't have the job. It's not like you're going to lose the job that you
No,
already have.
right.
This is
Worst case scenario, they don't hire you.
Right. This is an opportunity for more practice
Right.
in an interview too.
I worked at a job where I was trying to get a job in the company, like a better position inside the company that I worked for. I had been there about 3 months and I was trying to get this better job, which I was actually qualified for. I was overqualified for what position I was in
Well, that's
at
great.
the time. So my boss actually came to me and told me that they were going to be hiring for this position and told me, I want you to interview for it because I think you'd be great for it and I'd really like to hire you for it.
It's so encouraging.
If you want to apply and stuff. So I ended up doing it. Got through the first round of interviews, didn't really hear anything back for a while, went and asked him, and he's like, oh, we're interviewing a bunch of different people, so we're going to do another set of interviews. I'm like, okay, that's fine, whatever. But I was like a little curious because I'm like, you're the one who told me to come interview for this.
Right. So is this a no? Like, just tell
I'm like,
me.
I didn't even know about this position. So they did the second round of interviews, still same thing, like 3-4 weeks later, had not heard anything about it. So I went and asked him again. He's like, oh, it's between you and this outside candidate. Both of you guys are really qualified for it. We just don't know who we're going to pick. So we're going to do a third interview.
There's so many interviews.
Like, this is not for a CEO position. It was like for an assistant position.
Over like 3 months.
Yes. They had scheduled the third interview and I ended up telling them like, no, I'm good. I'm dropping out of this. Like, I'm not doing 3 interviews for an assistant position. I ended up getting a different job shortly after that and quitting. And I went and talked to the CEO. He actually called me because he wanted to know why I was resigning. Because I resigned like 2 weeks after because I found a different job, a way better job.
Yeah.
And he called me up to his office to talk to him. I was so nervous. Like, that was one time when I was like shaking.
Yeah.
So nervous to talk to like the CEO of this huge company.
Right.
And he asked me why I was quitting. And basically I told him, I wasn't happy with the fact that they wanted 3 interviews and for an assistant job. And I didn't even like volunteer. Well, I mean, I applied for the position, but it wasn't my idea. Like,
You were
he
invited
told
to
me-
apply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And pretty much like led me on of, oh, hey, you're going to get this job if you apply for it kind of a thing. So I wasn't happy about that. So he ended up telling me, well, we just hired an outside person because we wanted an outside perspective on the position. I had been there like 3 or 4 months.
Of course, you're an outside perspective.
I'm like, so being there for 3 months means I'm too inside now. Like, I'm too into
all of
the
our
company.
secrets.
I know.
That's a lot.
3 interviews. Like,
The other thing, nobody has time to
No.
do that. If you are a hiring manager and you have a vacant position, like, you want to get that filled. Oh, I got an interview. No, backwards. I got a resume from a guy who at the bottom of the resume, it said, call me if you have any questions or if you just want to chat. I'm always down to have a good time. And I was like, that's kind of weird. And so he went in my like, if nobody else schedules an interview and I get no other applicants, I'll call this guy. Well, I had to call that guy because I had nobody else. And so I set up the interview and he comes in and it's a small leasing office. There's a guy who's like having a seizure in the clubhouse and his parents were there and they were like, this happens. It's okay. You don't have to call the ambulance. Like, we got it. So once I made sure that was all okay, I went ahead and called him in for the interview. And he gets in. He's like, oh, was that a test? I was like, no, what is wrong with you?
how insensitive.
It was so weird.
Oh my gosh.
And
And
the-
test. Yes, we bring in an actor to have a seizure and then we call an ambulance. We have an actor ambulance on standby.
Yeah, because you definitely need that for your maintenance position. This will judge how effectively you can fix a leaky pipe. Like, gosh.
Your
people-
EMT training. Good Lord.
So one of the questions that I like to ask, kind of depending on where I am, is like, what's your ideal work environment? So if they're like, I just need quiet by myself, I'm like, oh, this is not going to work. Or if they're like, oh, I need a whole lot of people, I'm like, we're a 2-person office, not going to work. And so one girl, I asked that question, she went, I just need someplace with windows. And I was like, oh,
That's so sad.
poor thing. And she had been in like the repo industry and like making collection calls.
Oh, yeah. That's
From an inside office that was closed and she was by herself with no windows
That's
all
sad.
day.
That's so depressing.
I was like, I felt so bad for her too.
She would be one of those that needs this podcast. I can't even imagine how many angry
Oh my
phone
gosh,
calls she would get.
So many. You have to like
Right,
volunteer to
yeah.
call these people and then you get cussed out and yelled at. Like, you know,
Right.
it's coming. Oh, that's so rough.
sad.
My weirdest interview, this was actually all for the same position. I was having such a hard time filling it. Different community manager had interviewed this guy. She ended up promoting my guy to fill her like supervisor maintenance role that that she had. And so then she sent me all of the candidates that she was looking at because maybe they would work for my position. And I called this guy in for an interview. He sat down. I was like, oh, so what makes you want to stay in the industry? I don't. Like, oh, well, they say that what you do in college is what you're stuck doing the rest of your life.
Oh
so
my gosh,
here
no.
I am. Okay, so I'm trying to pull it back together. I'm like, okay, we can save this. We can come back. Like, nobody really likes the apartment industry anyway,
right,
so
yeah.
I can't blame him.
Okay.
I asked him a few other questions and he answered those, like about his experience and stuff. And he said, what happened to that other job? And I was like, oh, actually, so my maintenance supervisor here who was in the room, I was like, he actually got promoted to this other property. That's something great about my company is they promote a lot internally. So obviously I can't make guarantees, but if you work hard, do your job, there's a great chance that you could get something better in the future too. And he stood up and slammed the desk. He's like, that is ridiculous. I have so much more experience than these young whippersnappers over here that they just keep promoting. And he walked out of the interview and slammed the door.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, okay, bye.
Right. Good grief.
He's like, don't get mad and start yelling at your interviewer. Like,
So
geez.
I have only done that one time where I've actually walked out of an interview. Not necessarily they weren't in yet. So I interviewed for a city position for like the next city over from where I was at the time. So I had to go to like the town hall and I was interviewed by 3 people. There were 3 people just like they put us in like this huge room that looked like a courtroom.
Oh, weird.
And they just had one table in the middle and then 3 chairs on one side. And then I had 1 chair on the other side.
Okay, that's
so
creepy.
like it was dark and creepy in there, first of all. All 3 of them were so monotone. Like I was like trying not to doze off in this interview. Seriously. And they asked just the dumbest questions. And I felt like I already knew that like I just didn't like that atmosphere and I just didn't like it. So I answered the questions just like one worded pretty much.
Right.
So they had me go to the next round, air quotes, the next round of interviewing. So they're like, oh, we're going to take you to this other part of the building. We're going to have this other lady interview you from this different department. They had me wait for a little bit and then like walk me back to this other area. And it was this other set of offices that were like so dark and creepy looking. And like, so they sat me down and I like waited for like 15 minutes. No one was even like in the room or came by or anything like that. So I just left. Because I was like, no, this is scary and depressing. And I know I don't want to work here anyway. So there is no point in me staying for the rest of this interview.
That's
so
true.
I left. And, which I think is
true.
important. Like if you already know, like you don't need to sit there and suffer.
And you're wasting your time and you're wasting their time. Like,
yeah.
I had a girl cry in an interview before. I was being really nice, but I had asked, I was like, so tell me a little bit about your current job. And she starts shaking and crying.
Aww.
And I was like, it's okay. And then she just barely said anything though the whole time. So I was like, oh, so, what makes you want to be a leasing consultant? She was like, I don't know. Oh. And I was like, okay. And like,
I might want
it
to
was
prepare
just
something a little bit
the
more than
quietest,
that.
weakest little
Aw.
answers. And I felt so bad for her. Like she was so scared.
Oh.
And then I had someone else who was like so hyped up about everything. God, what did I ask her? I was like, oh, what days are you available to work? She was like, oh, I can do Mondays. Oh, you guys have a tennis court. Oh my God, I love tennis. Tennis is so cool. I like tennis courts. That's a really pretty tennis court. Oh, I like that it's all gated in on all those different sides. And I was like, yeah, tennis court. There's some squirrels out there too. Like
I could not hire somebody like that. I'm sorry.
it was so much energy.
People at work, the guy that I work with literally describes me as the nicest mean person he's ever met. And I was like, that is a perfect description. I was not offended. I was like, you're so right. Because I'm nice 90% of the time.
Yep.
But then I'm pretty honest about stuff and my facial expressions show things. I'm very honest. So I will say like... And then I had a girl at work say, she's like, have you ever seen this TV show? And I was like, nope, I haven't watched it. She's like, you totally remind me of this girl on here. She's like a lawyer and she's like so nice, but then she knocks people down when she needs to. And I'm like, oh my God, I think that's a good thing. Like, you're saying I'm super nice and then I knock people down. I'm like, I'm not offended by this.
I think you could win an alley fight if you needed to. Like,
oh my God. Oh, that's a perfect
people
description.
are always like, gosh, you're so happy. You're so nice. You love people. I'm like, no. I'm a really good liar. Like, really
You're
good.
very good at being nice
I will.
when you're upset too.
Yeah. So I learned the trick to that actually at the coffee shop, because when you're standing at your register and you're having to like take their money and all that with your right hand, your left hand really doesn't have anything to do. So you put it under the counter where people can't see it, and you make a fist and you ball up all of your emotions and all of your anger and all of your facial expressions, and you funnel it all into the one hand. I drew blood one time because I was like clenching my fist so hard, and my dad cut my nails apparently. And it helps. It helps a lot. Or like under the table at meetings. Now that I'm in a corporate job, I do that too.
I do that at meetings with my pen. Like sometimes my pen will stab my leg because I don't want to be.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
But you have an outlet.
Right
Your
now.
face is nice. Your voice sounds good.
Right.
You're able to give that happy perky. How can I help you today? Oh my gosh, that's such a great idea. Never mind that I told you the same idea 2.5 minutes ago, but I'm glad you thought of it yourself now. You can totally fake it.
Yes.
If you have an outlet.
Absolutely.
I had a guy start to walk out of an interview, and he turned around and he quacked at us. So that was cool.
Did he get the job?
No, I don't. He was a quack. And then I had a girl walk into a wall one time too. She was walking out. She's like, "Oh, it's so good to meet you guys." She just like bounced off this wall.
Oh, that's so sad because I could relate. That would be me. That's what would happen.
It happens sometimes. You know, I've had some really good interviewees though. So I had one girl walk in. Well, it's just like standing in my clubhouse. That's where everybody was waiting for me to interview them. And I had like 2 or 3 back to back. And then my third one didn't show up. And so I was like, "Who are you? Do I have an interview with you? I'm sorry." She's like, "No, I just came in to drop off my resume. I was curious if you guys are hiring." I was like, "I sure am. Do you want to do an interview right now?" And she was like, "Yeah." And
cool.
she aced it. She
That's
was
awesome.
on it. I actually remembered her. I couldn't hire her at the time because then corporate took the position away from me. And I was like, "Well, thanks for letting me interview 24 people
Right.
for it." And so at my next place, though, I actually like remembered her, hunted down her information, called her, and gave her the
Good.
job.
Awesome.
And then I had someone else like called us. She was like, "My car broke down on the highway, but I am getting in an Uber right now. I'm going to be just a little bit late because the Uber is going to take a minute to get to me, but I am coming to you. And I just wanted you to know." And she called like me. She called the HR lady. She called my boss, who he and I were going to both interview her together at the time. But we were like, "Hey, stay with your car. Like, get it towed, do your thing."
Right.
She was like, "No, I want this job. This is important to me." And yeah, she showed up. She killed it. Like,
Good.
oh, she totally got hired.
Well, yeah, because then you see like how responsible they are too. Like that
Right.
shows you a lot.
And just that communication. Just let me know. Like, dude, just tell me. I mean, also she was super qualified. She was super smart. Like, she did great. I can't say
That's awesome.
I've never been that like outstanding in an interview or anything.
I don't think I'd do that. I'd call and be like, "My car broke down. I need to reschedule. Sorry, that's not my first priority. I'm not paying for an Uber to come."
I was impressed.
so bad.
She was so dedicated. I don't know. I've done pretty good in my interviews. I do really well under pressure, just as a general rule. So I'm very blessed and very lucky in that respect.
Yeah.
Because I'll be a bucket of nerves, like I'm crying before I go in there, but I wipe my tears off and I'm like, "Hi, here's why you're gonna hire me," and blah blah blah.
Right.
And every question they ask, I'm like, "Oh my god, in that scenario, I've experienced something similar, and here's exactly how I would draw upon my past experience to ace this test." And
I know. I have so much confidence in an interview. I'm like, where does this come from and how do I get this all the time?
Why can't I do this on a daily basis?
No.
Like, some people like look in the mirror and pep themselves up, and I look in the mirror and I'm like, "Why are you so stupid?" Like, but then I walk in an interview and I'm like, "No, I am a strong, smart, independent woman." Like,
because you know what my therapist told me? You got to talk to yourself positively. You got to change your negative thoughts.
so you know what I do is I'm like, "Oh God, that was really dumb. Stop it. You're not supposed to beat yourself up. You got to stop saying stuff like that." And then I'm beating myself up about beating myself up. And I just don't know that I've grasped that concept yet.
Okay, so mine is that I'm like a really clumsy person. So when I fall or do something like that, I'm like, "Oh, dang it, why are you so clumsy?" I'm like, "No, I'm not clumsy. I'm a ninja."
You are a ninja.
That's my opposite spectrum of that is, no, I'm not clumsy. I'm a ninja.
It's obviously the natural opposite of it. Like,
But it is true though. Like if you listen to your negative self-talk, it's depressing.
It is.
Don't do it.
Absolutely. It's hard to tune it out though sometimes.
Yeah.
Hence our podcast. You can listen to that and it'll
there you
drown
go.
out all of your thoughts inside. Right? Well, that's creepy.
Drown out all of your thoughts. Okay. Listen to this. Don't have thoughts.
Never
Only
mind.
this.
I take that back. I take it back.
So what did we learn today?
Oh, we learned so much. You should use a professional email on your resume.
Seriously. Yeah, don't send a shirtless picture with your resume either.
Don't call your references your old lady friend or your cutest friend.
Try not to cry in an interview.
Oh, yeah. Seizures are not a joke. And you should try really hard not to yell at the person who's interviewing you. Encouragement pouch.
Yes.
Oh.
We both said ooh.
So every week we are reading an inspiring, encouraging quote from our encouragement pouch, which is really just a collection of things that I purchased from artist The Latest Kate. Okay, today's encouragement.
You have issues with saying that.
I do.
It's hard.
Encouragement pouch quote. Just take a breather if you need one. It's okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
You don't always have to run around. You don't have to do all of the things.
No.
So I'm really bad at this. I make a to-do list and I like live or die by my list.
Same.
So if people like come up and interrupt me a lot during the day, and yeah, it's my job to take care of them, but also I didn't check that off my list. So I need to make sure that I have like 8 or 9 check marks before I feel confident and completed about the day.
Right.
And it's the same at home too. Like a weekend, I will feel so bad and I'll beat myself up so much if I don't check everything else off. So I finally learned like at home, I had to put rest on my to-do list
Well,
so
there
that
you
I could check it
go.
off.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
It was actually the best trick that I ever did to be able to like actually make myself stop and rest.
No, that is, you have to like make yourself. I've learned that too. That like you either like set an alarm or you put a specific time that you're going to go on a break or something like that, especially if you're at like a salary job where
Yeah.
you don't necessarily get breaks or lunch or something like that. You have to force yourself
That
to.
happens to me. I just eat at my desk
Right.
because I've got so many people coming up to me. So
Right.
then I finally actually started writing down like all the interruptions that I had and checking those off my list.
Well, that's cool.
So just take a breather.
Yes.
It's okay.
Absolutely.
And you know what you should do after you take that breather is go to whatthemonday.com and tell us your story
Yeah.
about work.
Yes. Follow us on Twitter at Podcast Monday.
Yeah. Or on Facebook and Instagram at What the Monday Podcast.
Absolutely, because we're going to be posting things from the encouragement pouch. Thanks for listening. Again, guys, have a good week.
You too. And if you don't have a good week, tell us about it.
Yes.
Okay, guys.
All right.
Until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Well, What the Monday podcast basis is in humor and comedy. Names used are not actual. Content is merely an interpretation, and any relationship to an actual event is entirely coincidental.